Kaila Lindsey out of Charlotte, North Carolina, who has been an agent for 8 years, who went from being a team leader to leaving and destructuring her team. We cover Facebook ads in this episode. Kaila's done $24 million in 2023. And you'll see that in this episode, she talks about how she did more transactions in 2021, but made less money. This is the Agent Goldmine, where you'll find real talk, and ambition. We're here to build real businesses and be more than your average agent. We want to know what the killers are actually doing within their businesses, the reality of it. All tactical, no fluff. So we're here to find out. Please share and enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of the Agent Goldmine, where Shelby and I interview Kaila Lindsey out of Charlotte, North Carolina, who has been an agent for 8 years, who went from being a team leader to leaving and destructuring her team to making more money, going back to being a solo agent. We cover Facebook ads in this episode. We cover a little bit of YouTube. We are bringing her back on for YouTube. Kaila's done $24 million in 2023, and that was with 46 closings. And you'll see that in this episode, she talks about how she did more transactions in 2021, but made less money. So it's not about transaction number. It's about having peace of mind. And that's what we cover in this episode. And I really focus, actually at the very end, we talk about ManyChat and a lesson learned that you do not want to miss. You can go ahead and laugh at me. Shelby, what did I not cover? Well, I mean, we covered a lot in this episode, but what other bullet points can people expect to learn from this episode?
Just so you know that, Kaila, by saying destructuring the team and wanting a peace of mind, in no way, shape, or form is she not an absolute badass, though. So Kaila is a 5-time recipient of the Icon Award at eXp Realty. She has graced the stages of Shareholder Summit event, multiple time speaker. She's co-hosted the Southeastern Conference alongside Glenn Sanford. So all this to say is, there's some people on who are like full steam go-getters. And then there's some people who are like more into lifestyle. And I really actually think that she is both. Ali, before we jump in, some life updates. We just both got back from New Year's party. You made it to midnight. I made it till 10:30 p.m. Rage. Looking ahead, next week, I am off to Vegas for WealthCon and also the Traffic and Conversion Summit, which is a marketing super nerd podcast that Drake listens to. And they were having a giveaway for tickets. And obviously, I did all the criteria, DM'd out of every single host, the platform, and then they randomly chose me as the winner. I was like, it was not random. I will see you there. So that's what I have on the horizon. Ali, what you got going on?
That's amazing. I am still booking tickets to Tom Ferry Elite Retreat out in Orlando in a month. Still need to do that. I need to book this month is booking all the flights, making sure I have all the tickets. For example, Real Estate Rockstars. Do I know if I have the ticket? No. So I need to make sure. And that's what I'm focused on.
Nice. Love it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kaila Lindsey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, you guys and gals, all gals. Guys are listening to. I'm going to include guys. I'm one of those people. I say dude, guy. It's a thing. My mom drives her crazy, but
so do we. So right before we started recording, we already touch on so many topics, and I'm excited to get into today's episode. So jumping right in, Kaila, a lot of times when people first get into the business, they, want to master the art of being a real estate agent, and they gain some confidence. They do a lot of transactions. Then they want to build a team, right? That's the next progression. Then they want to be like a broker owner. You have a different opinion on that. And I love to hear yours.
I do. And kind of highlight what you're just talking about. A lot of people take that path, or they come into it and they dive into, I've had 5 deals. I'm going to go build a team because I want to immediately start leveraging, because they learn about what leverage is and they're like, this sounds great. More agents, I shop for agents, and then I will build more money. That is the goal for anyone, right? We want to, of course, in building a team, you want to pour into the people around you, but that's what we're always told. If you read MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that is what you're told. You build up to this, then you go here, then you go here, then this is the trajectory. I think it's a fallacy. Now, some people could say, well, that's because you failed at building a team. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It will work, but it is not for everybody, and it's not for most people. What I'll also say is you are not going to be more profitable with a team than by yourself. technically, you could actually be more profitable for yourself than having a team. So let's run through some quick numbers here. In having a team, I had a team for 3-4 years, right? I was on my own for several years, then started a team because I had enough business to share. That's, by the way, when you start a team, not just because you've done a few, you've got enough you can share and you need to start leveraging. And you start doing this and you start realizing there's things that are needed. Your team wants an office because you want to make sure you're able to have a spot to coach them and bring them in where we can do calls. You make sure you have admin. You make sure you have enough money for enough signs and open house products and things like that, and marketing and resources. Oh, and you got to sign up for Mojo, but not just for you, for the whole team. And then you're going to need follow-up boss for the whole team. And then you're going to need some YLOPO for some additional here. And they're going to want this and they're going to want that. Before you know it, you could very easily be looking at $35,000 a month in fixed costs. Now, just to give an overall, fixed cost means you can't remove it unless you get rid of somebody or you get rid of that system. That's a lot of money. And by the way, that's on the low end. Most teams actually spend more than that because they incorporate Zillow and things like that, which I refused to do. So why would I say a team is not as profitable as being on your own? I'm going to talk also about lifestyle. So over the last couple of years, I've started to look at how my lifestyle changed when it came to the stressors of running a team and what I had to actually put into it. And I'm not talking just monetary, I'm talking energy and showing up and making sure everybody always feels like they are, I'm going to call it loved, right? They're loved and appreciated and they're there and we're all, in a group together building this big vision. It takes a certain person to be able to do that. I'm going to admit, I know people that are phenomenal at it. I'm not that person. I spent a lot of time with a lot of agents, coaching them, training them, giving deals away. And I say giving away, that's the way it works, but giving deals that either maybe weren't brought to the finish line, or I not only led the horse to water, I put their face in it, told them to drink, and they're spitting it back out, right? So for me, it just was not working very well. And what I realized was I made a hard shift. I got pregnant. Gosh, it was like a year and a half ago now. It seems so long ago. I got pregnant and had a bit of a mindset shift where it was, okay, I've got me, my business. I'm soon to have a child. I need to focus. I need to focus on something and I need to figure out what it is. And what I realized was the goal of having this huge team, which by the way, shout out to those that do, because I know how much hard work it is. Having this big team was going to be actually too much work. See, the thing is, when you have a team, it's just shifting the work. Instead of working on buyers and sellers and hustle and bustle, you're working on motivating the team, bringing in leads and deals, coaching them, making sure that they stick around. And the attrition rate of people leaving is actually very high. So you could be coaching and training people. They have 2 deals finally, and then they're like, bye, I'm going to go do it on my own. Right? And you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, are you serious? I invested so much time and effort and energy and you're just going to leave. And I always cheer people on if they're going to leave. That's great. Go do it. I'm proud of you. If you do it successfully, I obviously coached you, right? But that's where the holdup is. And that's where a lot of people get to, well, I want this big team. And then they get sucked down the rabbit hole of, well, I made $500,000, but I only kept 200 because I had 300,000 of fixed expenses that I can't get rid of. So at the end of the day, you're actually left with less than if you just do it on your own. So I made a huge shift in my business, multiple. I started doing YouTube. I stopped cold calling. I still have a small team, but it's basically 2 agents and my admin. And one of them helps me with showings and the other one does some deals on and off as she chooses, right? So for me, my business had absolute incredible growth this last year. And I changed one thing. I focused on me. And it sounds like it's super self-centered and egotistical. But when I say I focused on me, it was not so much of I'm going to focus every day on making sure everyone else has what they need. Instead, I chose to put the oxygen mask on me and hunker down and put in the work and see what came out on the other side. And whenever I do things like this, when I shift things in my business or in my life, I give it an exceptional amount of time. It's always like in 1 year, if I don't succeed to this level, obviously this doesn't work and I'll go back to what I was doing, but I always give it a full year, right? That's what I did when I got into real estate. If I can make $50,000 a year, I'll stick with real estate. And I doubled that. So obviously stuck with it. So in this particular year, I got to $522,000 in GCI. And that was absolutely incredible. But the thing that was incredible about it, it was only about $4,000 more than what I'd done in my best year ever. And if you were to look at my volume, I did more volume in that prior year, but it depends upon where the business comes from. So this is another piece I'd want to focus on for you guys to kind of, getting all the nuggets. So hopefully I'm not going too off course here, but focus on where your business is coming from, right? Even when you're going year to year and seeing where you were last year or the year before that, focus on where the business is coming from.
Thank you for listening. Out of respect for your time, we want to make this show as valuable as possible for you. So if you have any feedback on how we can improve, please let us know. DM us at Ali the Agent and The Shelby Show.
But focus on where your business is coming from, right? Even when you're going year to year and seeing where you were last year or the year before that, focus on where the business is coming from. In 2021, which was my best year ever, I had a few people on my team that did a handful of deals. And I also had an acquisition company that was using me as their buyer's agent. So they purchased up dozens of properties, but I only got about a third of the commission. So while the commissions or the volume looked higher than it does this year, I actually did more this year than that year, which is amazing. If you actually look at it, I did almost all the transactions this year to make up for that. So every year is going to be different. But the other big shift was I honed in my time and my focus. So if it was outside of my hours of operation, I didn't do it. I didn't work nights. I didn't work weekends, except for like the occasional Saturday because I did something else the week prior. And it allowed me to really focus on what I wanted to, which was my son and my husband and me. And the business fell in where it was supposed to. Amazingly, when you ask people to meet you during the day, they will do it. So when I made those shifts, though, it was a conscious shift of if it's outside of us, then it wasn't meant to be. And that's okay. I have always been a hustle, right? Hustle, 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 go the extra mile. It works. It completely works. And I see all these agents hopping on, which shout out, you guys know who you are if you're listening to this podcast, but doing the, hey, I'm making cold calls on New Year's Day. Yeah, you can, and you could be really successful at it. But if you've made the conscious decision to do things a certain way, it's okay. You're not lesser for deciding I want to do my business on my own with leverage of assistants and transaction coordinators and showing assistants and things of that nature. At the end of the day, it's what lifestyle do you want to create? So if you're very clear on that, you can make your business work to that. On the flip side, you can't say, Kaila, I really would like to just sit at home watching TV all day and just allow business to come to me. That also is not going to happen. But if you focus on what you want and the desired outcome that you want to reach with the lifestyle, it will fall into place. You just have to be very, very focused on it.
Bringing it back, one question. Devil's advocate. Coming from someone who's also been a team leader and I had a big team, almost 30 agents, and I resonate with so many things of what you were saying, the pain, the frustrations, the energy, all of the things. Devil's advocate question.
Yeah.
If the screening process, is there a chance that the screening of the agents and then not bringing the right agents because of the love and because of wanting the culture to be whatever, that plus doing too much to make sure you give the love to everyone who needs it, do you think that if those things were stripped away, like that is what creates those teams that work? Or what is the factor where those teams that are successful, what is the magic formula?
I love this question. So I actually studied for a short time with Veronica Figueroa, who's number one EXP team in EXP. She was number one in her previous firm. She's phenomenal. She runs a phenomenal team, a tight ship. But the biggest thing she even told me is people are going to consistently leave. So the success of those teams actually comes from consistently replacing those who are leaving and having a very straightforward system of someone who's hiring them, someone who's training them. And when I'm saying like the really big successful teams, hiring, training, and firing. If those are happening consistently, you're good. And the fourth piece to that is consistent leads coming in. Now, leads for me was not an issue because we had plenty coming in. So it came down to, however, me, especially if these are the agents trying to make that transition into a team, if you are the one providing all of the closings right now, all of the leads right now, you're the one also training, you're the one also trying to hire people onto the team, that's the biggest bottleneck. Personally, I feel like if you do get beyond that and get enough people onto the team that even if they're leaving and coming at the same time, it doesn't matter as much because you're keeping the flow moving, that's going to put you in a great spot. It's getting past that initial hurdle where you've got the 20% that are sticking around longer than a year, but the rest of them are usually transitioning out every 3 to 6 months. it's going to be a flow. But if you've got enough, it's okay. You can keep transitioning through people, which sounds so bad saying it, but that's really what it is. People come and people go. So that will create success. Absolutely. That transition though, if you're like, hey, I'm doing really well on my own and I'm just going to add a bunch of people, it is a hurdle. You can be successful at it, but if you want to just flow a little easier with less stress, you can just shift the way you're doing your business and still earn more.
What was the split that you guys had on the team? And a quick overview of what the team setup looked like: listing coordinator, transaction coordinator, ops, marketing, whatever.
Yep. So my team setup was, and it was because we've kind of shifted at this point a little bit. I had a full-time TC, full-time admin who would not only help me, but help onboard our agents. I had done a full training system that they could access and go through, and I could see their progress and check in with them. So that, by the way, was a game changer. So you're not redoing the same thing over and over again. We also had a gentleman who does all of he's a VA who's been on our team for some time. So he didn't need kind of like marketing materials that were needed or anything like that. He could create them. The admin would go put out all signs, lock boxes, get the photos done, all of that. So our agents really had to prospect and get the deal closed. Other than that, everything was handled. Photos, walkthroughs, inspections, scheduling, everything was done for them. The actual setup for splits, I end up having to shift it just a little bit because the attrition rate. So the first 10 transactions on the team, whether that takes you 6 months or it takes you 2 years, the first 10 transactions on the team, if the lead is provided to you, it's 40% to the agent, 60 to the team. If it's your own client, it is a 40, 60, I'm sorry. Yeah, numbers. Yeah, 40, 60, 60 to the agent, 40 to the team. But once you get to 10 transactions, we drop down, if I'm providing the lead, to a 50-50. So you still get a good split on the people you're bringing in organically, but we drop down the split for the leads that are being given. So it's a 50-50 split after that.
Got
With
it.
no additional fees or anything like that. I like to keep, mostly because I just don't want to keep up with the accounting.
Okay. And then, so as you were transitioning away from the team, I want to know what that looked like in conversation with the agents, that may have been dependent on leads coming in. Just, I guess what those conversations looked like.
Absolutely. So the interesting thing was, no matter how many leads came in, they still weren't being closed. So whether I was doing, which further back from that, I was providing a ton of leads via a home buyer workshop, which I did a whole training on. And it's, easy. I say easy enough to do. It takes time like anything, but we were getting, anywhere from 20 to 70 leads per week from this particular event that I would do every single week. The challenge was nobody would call them. So when they started to say, well, we're not doing them, where are we going to get the leads? And I would just kindly point out, you have 1,000 leads in your system right now. People that raised their hand and said they're ready to do something between now and a year from now, but you haven't called them in 7 months. So it's not about the new leads. It was about me consistently teaching them, you have to follow up with the ones that have already come in. Most people aren't like, I'm ready to go. Let's go see houses tomorrow. That's usually not how it works. And if you've been in the business anytime longer than 6 months, you know that. So that was one of the biggest challenges, was showing them, hey, you've got to go call the other people in your database. The newest lead is not the best lead. It's the lead that's finally ready to go if you've consistently followed up with them. So when those leads went away, we still had 5,000, and this is like overall in our database, not outside of the ones that were just mine, 5,000 leads. So there were plenty of leads. The leads weren't the issue. So in addition, as I started whittling down on some of the lead sources because they just weren't closing, I did get the question of, well, we're not getting any leads coming in. Where are we going to get business? This is where the conversation of where are your numbers coming from came up. I said, well, let's track your numbers real quick. Have you gotten any deals closed or any signed buying agreements from this source? And they're like, well, no. I said, well, then why would we keep it if you're not getting anything from it? Now, if I were to cancel this over here, if we would stop doing this particular event or stop doing YouTube, yeah, that would probably not be wise because we're actually getting closed deals from it. But this is where it was an opportunity to train them or teach them or coach them, even for their own numbers. Don't put money into something if it's not working. Review it. Am I getting money back out of it, or am I just getting pretty names that are popping into my email once a week? Because the pretty names are not money. So just because it's a lead doesn't mean it's a prospect or someone who's actually going to close. So that was one of the biggest conversations. But what ended up happening was the people who already weren't really doing or putting in the work let themselves go. So I didn't necessarily let anybody go. It was, if you want to be here, I will provide you what you need. If you don't want to, that's okay. And that's how we ended up with my core two people, who one assists me in showing properties, and the other one who also closes deals at her leisure, right? Like she does it when she wants to do it, and that's totally fine. But she's also not getting as consistent of leads. If there's like a hot one that I can't handle, hey, are you open to doing this one? Or something I'll send over to her automatically from our other sources. Here you go, run with it. And she will. And that's really what ended up happening. It was a very organic me stepping back and focusing on me. And from that, not only did closings pick up, but we increased our revenue. We decreased a lot of our costs and spending. It was an amazing shift. And I ended up with top people that I really wanted to work with. So I ended up with two people that I love, my amazing director of ops who's been with me for 6 years. And that's it. And honestly, lean and mean has been exceptional.
Because you're with EXP. So are those people who you organically separated from, are they like still in your downline? Did they leave the bit? Or are you at all growing your team in regards to the EXP downline?
I've never focused on it, to be perfectly honest. And I've got a lot of people that are above me like, why aren't you focusing on it? And I'm like, well, because it's not where my heart is. So my flip side is I coach, and I've always coached agents. And I finally started focusing on it. I think that's what was making me, or I guess stressing me out, not making me feel as successful, is when some of the people that were on my team weren't taking my advice, but were like, well, I'm failing and I don't know why. But I realized they weren't doing any of the things I told them or showed them to do. And I started thinking to myself that it was my fault, right? Oh, I must not be a good coach. Meanwhile, on the flip side, I'm coaching people and they're having exceptional feedback from it. And they're closing the deals and they're doing the things, and I'm getting the texts and emails. They're like, oh my gosh, it worked, blah, blah, blah. So what I had to realize was focusing on coaching. That's what I really loved. It wasn't necessarily having people on my team. I wanted to be able to coach those people and watch them grow. But if they weren't going to listen to the things I was telling them, it was making me stressed out, and it was coming back on me, not on them. It was just me internally thinking about it, going, I must be a failure if I can't teach these people how to do it. But how am I getting these other people to succeed over here? A lot of it had to do with, okay, if you're putting your own money into it and your focus, and the people that were hiring me as a coach, they were applying the knowledge. And that was the biggest difference, was who was applying it and who wasn't. And sadly, most of the people on my team were not applying it. And that's where the holdup was. So the shift in that, and I'm totally getting off track and I'm sorry, the shift in that and the people that ended up leaving, they ended up being the people that a lot of them aren't even with EXP anymore. They got a payoff from Coldwell Banker to go over there, or they're not in real estate anymore. One of them is and does 4 deals a year. So in looking at that, it also made myself feel a little bit better that it was like, okay, this is just what their desire is for their career. And another thing I had to come to grips with, not everybody wants to be me. Now, I don't mean me as Kaila. I mean, not everybody wants to do 25 million a year. Not everybody wants to close, 50 houses. Not everybody wants to have that lifestyle. Some people really do only want to close 10, and that's also okay. So I had to start altering how I was coaching some of those people, including the people that are still on my team, as to what are their goals. They're not trying to make 100,000 a month. They're trying to make 10, and that's totally fine. So when you kind of shift that mindset a little bit, that's also been very helpful, even in working with the clients that I coach, because again, not all of them want to do like $1 million a year. That's not their goal. They want to be able to take their kids to Disney World. That's it. And that's totally fine. So it's been a different shift. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. There's so many different directions that we can take this.
I know.
So you've mentioned throughout that you refused to incorporate Zillow into your business, and that you had like between 20 to 70 leads coming in from the home buying workshop. So I want to transition to, let's start with the home buying workshop. How did you start setting that up? And then if we get to it, we could talk YouTube, we could, whatever. But first I want to know about the workshop.
I love it. So I haven't given you guys a ton of background. So I started my career cold calling. Expired, SPSBOs, did really well at it, did 29 transactions my first year in real estate, most of which were listings, which everybody was shocked at, because usually when you start, you do mostly buyers. And I honestly, I had maybe 4 buyers. There was like hardly any buyers. So as I started shifting, and that was what we were taught though, right? And if you came in working with KW, no knock, they have their structure and they teach, I think, wonderfully, is lead with listings. So if you weren't doing listings, in my mind, you weren't worth it, right? Regardless of how many buyers you were doing, if you weren't doing listings, you weren't really an agent, right? I mean, you don't need skills to work with buyers. That was what was in my mind, right? So as we were nearing, it was the end of 2019, coming into 2020, and I had started hearing about, oh, you could do like workshops. I was like, that's a really good idea. So I structured a buyer workshop where, I would meet people at a brewery. It was called Hops and Home Buying was the name of it. And I spent like days in Canva making my workbook and all this other stuff. It was fun. I mean, I had an absolute blast like putting it all together. And I went ahead and did my very first one in the brewery. And the cool thing was we had about 10 couples there. 8 of them, 8? Yeah, 8 of the couples purchased with me. That's pretty cool out of 10. The 2 that didn't purchase with me, one lost his job, so he could not purchase. The other one, this is where it's a lesson learned when you miss out on something. I didn't follow up as much as I should have. I followed up a few times. They didn't get back to me. I was like, that's fine. They ghosted me. But then 2 months later, I said, you know what? I'm going to call them again. Like, why not? So I called them and I said, hey, are you guys still, I did the Hops and Home Buying workshop at Noda Brewing. Are you guys still interested in buying a home? He said, we are. And I was like, yes. And then he goes, we're doing the final walkthrough right now. And I went, no. So they did buy. So I realized, okay, this is still a good lead source. So of course, right after I did that event, that was in March, within 2 weeks, everything shut down, everything. Now, mind you, I had just launched my team just shortly before that. And in my mind, I told these people that I was going to bring them leads, that I was going to make sure they were successful. And I took that seriously. So I said, I've got to figure something out. So what I did was I shifted my webinars virtually. So I still called it Hops and Home Buying. I would bring my own beer to sit down and do our talks in the evening and tell them which brewery it was from locally, very much like local centric. And I would do my presentation. And the amount of people that would register, the cool thing was it was a 3-time registration. So they had to, what I would call, make the decision 3 times. So have you ever gotten a lead where you put pretty photos out on social media and someone clicked on it, but they had to put their email in to see the house? And everybody's like, oh my God, I got a lead. You didn't. You got a woman eating chocolate and drinking wine at 12 o'clock at night that wants to see the pretty mansion you posted. I am that person. Okay. That's who you got. They don't want to buy a house. And so I realized that and I said, okay, we need several opt-ins. So they would click on the ad, which would take them to an Eventbrite page where they would then have to register with their name, phone number, and email. Mandatory. I had to have those 3 or they wouldn't register. Then they show up to the event. Now, the cool thing was the people that showed up to the event were 4 times more likely to actually purchase a home with us than the ones that just went and registered. But the cool thing was because we got the names, numbers, and emails of all the people that registered, we could follow up after the event to see if they actually wanted to do something. A lot of times there were a big handful of people every single time that said, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about it. I wanted to go to that. Or are you doing it again? Do you have a recording? And what we would say to them is, we don't have a recording, but I'd love to do it one-on-one with you and answer all your questions. Really what it turned into was I structured it as our team's buyer presentation. So when we sit down with a buyer, we pull that out. It's interactive. They can fill it in while we're going. And this way they understand the process. And it's amazing is when people understand the process versus let's go look at houses, they actually trust you more and they're more likely to move forward with you. So we would schedule after this event multiple one-on-ones to go through and share with them exactly what the presentation was. And it would increase the follow-up. The cool thing was, especially right around this time of year, we'd get 70 to 90 people register. That all through January, we would do 1 a week, all the way in through February and load up and then just consistently follow up. It crushed our numbers in 2020 because of that. So it was exceptional. I stopped doing it because it was a little bit of work and I was splitting my focus upon, me closing deals, bringing in everything. But here's the cool thing. I had an agent on my team for a very short time and he begged me to do Zillow. I mean, begged me. I was like, dude, we're getting like a ton of leads. Just call them. No. Zillow's better. Trust me. I know this. I said, okay, let's try it. So we tried Zillow. Well, I did a side-by-side with Zillow and my virtual Hops and Home Buying. Guess what? Freaking crushed it. I spent $4,000 on Zillow, $4,000 in a month. It was insane. We got 4 leads. 4. And when I say leads, they didn't go anywhere. We didn't close any of them. Nothing ever happened with them. Nothing.
Yo, real quick, this podcast is not free. Cost of admission is sharing with a buddy who'd benefit or throwing it on your Instagram story. Tag us, we'll reshare that.
Instead, on the flip side, in those 4 weeks, I spent $600 in ads. That brought us in 25 to 60 leads per week. And a good percentage, I think it was like a 10% conversion rate, closed. I called one of my lenders. I was like, dude, we're not doing Zillow anymore. He goes, it's been a month. I was like, yeah, screw that. Look at my numbers right now. I did a comparison with what I'm doing and what they're doing. It's not even close. There's no point in even you going 50-50 with me because it's stupid spending of money. So that's why I would say track your numbers. Like, where's your stuff coming from, and be okay with cutting it. And they'll tell you can't. Just stop the payment on your damn credit card. They will stop coming after you. I've done it. I'm like, well, I don't care. I'm done. You're not giving me anything. We're done. I'm changing my credit card number. I'm stopping the payment. So yeah, that was my biggest lesson in that. But if you go grassroots and you're doing something consistent like that, it will bring in the leads.
Okay. First of all, hops and home buying, amazing. I started Pints and Properties in 2018.
Nice.
So we are soul sisters here. I'm also like
I
totally
love it.
vibing with what you're saying. But my real questions, you mentioned an interactive tool, like your buyer presentation that was like interactive. Could we have that tool for our listeners by chance?
It is a workbook. So it's an actual workbook. So basically I would send it out, and my presentation was me going through basically slide by slide in the workbook for them. And I'm just like on the screen talking them through it, but it's literally them just filling it out. Okay. Which was always a fun one. How much money do you think you need to put down on a conventional loan? Everybody's typing into the chat box on Zoom, like 20, 15, 10. And I'm like, 3, write that down, so they're like writing down the numbers. So I actually have that. That's actually a part of, I have the program itself. Yes. So I actually have the program. I'm finishing the upload actually this weekend because I have it as a package with my viral agent formula, which is my YouTube course. So it's actually an add-on to that, but I'm starting to do that one by itself. I can't remember what the price is. It's going to be like below $300 for the entire course, how I made the sheet, all of the ads behind it on like how I set everything up, like the entire 9 yards, as well as the editable workbook, which you can then edit, save, download, send out to people, use it as a freebie, like all of it. So I will get you the link for that.
Okay, perfect. So listeners, you can buy that one if you want it, but Kaila is going to give us a YouTube video roadmap, which we might not even get to YouTube at this point. We might have to have Kaila back on for another one because I want to ask you now about ads. So were those ads on Facebook? Can you talk us through, like, when did you get into ads? $600 would probably freak out some people. Some people would think it's cheap. Can you talk about ads?
Yeah. So now, and think of it this way. So I ran the ads for about a week leading up to the event. And the ad was really, really simple, super straightforward. Hey, first time home buyer workshop, come check it out, hops and home buying. And it just had a simple description, how you can save money on buying a home. You've got to have some kind of hook to pull them in. And that's really what it is. And there's always some kind of program, no matter where you are in the country. Like I found out about one today that I'm going to go look into and see if it's actually legit. But with that being said, the ads are easier to set up than you might think. And ads are scary. I have a team that helps me with my ads for the viral agent formula to sell that course, but it's because it's a little bit more specific for this one because of fair housing. And I to answer your question, I did it on Facebook. I'm sure you could expand, Google AdWords and things like that. I just focus on Facebook, and I didn't even push it to Instagram. It was literally just Facebook. That's the only place that I put it. It was simple. It was easy. It was straightforward. So in doing that, you have to comply with fair housing. Now, if anybody's ever run ads on Facebook in the past, you would know, okay, yeah, but you could select like what careers people have and what areas and their income level and all that. And you used to be able to do that. You cannot do that anymore. So you basically go in and say fair housing laws. So you have to click it, and it restricts you to, you're going to advertise to everybody in this 25-mile radius, period. That's it. There are some things you can put in there, like keywords like realtor.com or Zillow.com or things like that, things that people either have visited or would be a good keyword. You can do that, but that's what makes the advertising so simple. Let Facebook do the work. Let it do the work, because it will find the right people for you that are looking for those things based upon what you have as keywords in your advertising. Now, flip over from that, which another little caveat, there's another piece that I do. If it already knows, if Facebook already knows what you do, it makes it easier. So for example, for my team Facebook page, I put out a video, which I haven't been doing the last month. I've been so bad, but I put out a video a week that is literally 3 minutes long. It varies on what I'm talking about. It could be the market or interest rates or, current home values or what big event is going on in our market in the area. All of that, I film it and then I drop the video into Facebook and I do a quick transcription on it. And then I take that link and I email it to my entire database. And then I boost the video that's on my Facebook page. And what ends up happening is Facebook goes out and it finds the right people that are going to want to follow my page. So I'm getting a wider audience. But in the flip side, I'm now hitting my database every week with actual content, right? Not another freaking chili recipe. No one cares, right? We don't need to know what the newest cornbread is. It's all the same thing. Give them content that they want. So by putting that in there, they're now getting pulled over to your Facebook page and now they see you consistently and they're going to see that what you do.
And to confirm, this is a business Facebook page, right? Or can this be personal?
I always say, make sure you have both because you're going to connect with people in both areas. But when we're talking about boosting and sending out links and things like that, do it from your business page. Your personal page is really important because that's where you're still going to connect with Sphere and things like that. But if you're building a following of people specifically for your business, having a Facebook business page is good. Instagram's completely different. Insta is like an overlay. If you want to put personal stuff, put it on your stories. And I'm just now growing my Instagram, to be perfectly honest. But my Instagram and my personal Facebook, I'll put it this way. My Instagram is agent focused, right? So I'm all in front of the agents. I'm talking about my coaching course, which is the Viral Agent Formula, teaching people how to do YouTube. And then I'm also on my Facebook page. I've got some personal stuff I throw in there, like funny, Christmas outfits that we did with our family. But my business page on Facebook is always going to be business. So keeping them slightly segregated isn't a bad thing, but always allow your business to fold into your personal. Just don't let your personal fold into your business.
This is the beginning of 2024. What do you focus on this year? Like you're going through a lot of changes, like you're destructuring the team, you're focusing on you have a baby. What in your business, what are you most focused on right now? Or what are like a couple of tactical things that you're actually changing?
Great question. So keeping on with the focus, of course, end of every year, I review my numbers. Where did everything come from? And really for me, it's Sphere and YouTube. YouTube actually coming in on number one. So I, over the last year, focused on just one video per week on YouTube. This year, I'm actually doubling down. And if anybody has been listening to what's about to happen in the news or what's been going on, rates are going to come down. In fact, they have announced that they're going to come down 6 times, not multiplication times, but 6 events of a reduction of rates. Whether that means they're going to put it back up and then take it back down, put it back up and take it back down, we will see. But with that happening, we're going to see a major influx of people entering the market to purchase homes. So what that means is leads are about to increase no matter who you are. Competition is about to increase. But if you are starting to double down, and you should have started before now, but if you're starting to double down on your content creation, the loudest marketer wins. All right. So the person that's in front of people more often, they hear your voice more often. You want it to the point where your husband or your wife's friends at work are going, man, are they ever not on social media? That's what you want. It's great, but you know what I do, don't you? And you know my name and you know what's happening in my world. That's what you have to do. So this year for me, my focus is 100% on content creation for my business, whether it be for my YouTube channel, bringing in buyer leads that are coming from across the country. Like I was looking at our numbers literally just today or for December. I brought in $77,000 in commissions in December, and all of it was from YouTube. I mean, I'm cool with that. That's great. They came in, I've got leads, we've got things that are lining up for next year. So doubling down on my YouTube content is massive. Doubling down on my Instagram, which would be putting together 1 to 2 reels per day, getting on my stories every single day, talking about the content that I'm doing, and being consistent with it. By the way, if you haven't written down the word consistent yet, I hope you have, because that is my word, but the consistency is going to be key. So those are my 2 main focuses: is consistent increase in my content for YouTube and getting more clients in, making more of those videos and shorts, as well as consistent content creation for agent focused, whether it be YouTube videos to let people know about my viral agent formula or my hops and home buying workshop, seminars and things of that nature. All of those things, it all comes down to content for me. That is my biggest number one thing for 2024. The loudest marketer wins, and the more people that hear the message, the more it's going to hit. So I will say this. A lot of people get really caught up with, well, I said that once before. I put out that video and no one touched it. Or I said that 4 months ago. People aren't listening to everything you're saying. In fact, I have people that are like, oh, well, I made a video about that. I'm like, make it again. Put that particular piece of information in all of your videos. Guess what? You're never going to have anybody complain. You said that already. Because the more content you put out, the quieter each of them gets. And you're probably going to go, well, I should do less. No. What I mean is it's going to be spreading it out. And each one is going to hit a different person at a different time. The thing with content, especially when it comes to social media, a lot of times it'll get put out there and it's gone, replaced by the next thing. When that happens, what you said 2 weeks ago either didn't jive with the person that heard it the first time, they skipped over it, they weren't ready for the message, but now they are. And a really good example of that is a buddy of mine. He does a ton of mail marketing, right? He sends out postcards and he's done it for years. And he got a phone call from a gal that said, oh my gosh, I just got your postcard and this is so funny because we were just talking about selling our home and I just got your postcard. How cool is that? So he hangs up the phone, he starts laughing and he looks at his admin and he goes, I've been sending this woman postcards for 2 years, literally the same postcard. She wasn't ready to hear the message yet because it wasn't applicable to her yet. People aren't going to hear your message till it's applicable. So keep saying the message over and over and over and over again. And those that do hear it every single time, it's still okay. And I bet you follow people on Instagram or Facebook that have the same messaging and you still read it, even though you know what it's going to say, you read it anyway because it's engaging and you've started to follow the person. So getting out in front of people is a good thing. Keep repeating yourself. It's okay.
100%. And especially when you're creating content, you're getting better every time. So, yes, you made a video of cons of Tucson, but that was last year. Like there are more cons, always more cons.
Oh, yeah.
With Tucson.
Or,
but like you're getting
you've
better.
changed.
Yeah. Or yes, or an opinion has changed. Like actually what was a con is no longer a con. Or what was my opinion last year, 6 months ago, 2 months ago is no longer my opinion now. And
Yep.
I thought that's everything. Man,
It's
this
so
has
true.
been a great episode and we barely even touched on YouTube. I want to have you back.
I will be back. You guys let me know. Part 2 to come.
Yes, part 2 to come. As we head to our wrap-up questions, or I guess before that, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to mention?
Gosh, there's so many. There's so many things that we could possibly cover. What I would share, especially given the time frame in which we're speaking, it's brand new into the new year, is focusing on outcomes and actions. So Tony Robbins says this all the time. We overestimate what we could do in a year, and we underestimate what we could do in 10 years. Give yourself a little slack and look back at what you've accomplished, not over a year, but over the last 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, and understand that who you were 10 years ago, if you were to look forward and see where you are now, you'd probably go, there's no way. That's a lie. There's no way I'd be earning that or doing that or have a kid or have traveled to all these places or had these opportunities or these conversations or read that many books, whatever it is. So understand if you are coming out of 2023 feeling behind, it's a fresh start. But what you have to do is you have to ensure that you have actual outcomes you're striving for without actual action items to take care of that outcome. So I'm going to explain this to you a little bit. So we could say our goal, I'm going to go to weight loss because I feel like everybody always talks about weight loss. Your goal could be, I want to lose weight. Well, that is great. That means nothing, right? You could lose a pound and you're like, well, that sucks. Well, you lost weight. That was what you said. First off, you have to be very specific with what you want. I want to lose 12 and a half pounds. Great. Your outcome is the 12 and a half pound loss, but now you have to tell yourself why. Why do I want to lose this? I want to be able to chase after my kids and have less knee pain and this and that. Okay, great. Well, what are the action items to that? And this is usually where most people fall short. They have a goal with no action to get there. All right. So the goal would be 3 days a week. I go to the gym and do, weight gaining, weightlifting. Then I shift my diet away from this and I do exactly this thing. And you do that each time. and you can increase it. So for example, if you are wanting to start, let's say YouTube, right? The goal isn't, I'm going to launch a YouTube channel that's going to make me $1 million. That's really cool, right? That sounds awesome. But you have to actually break down the action items. And the thing is, a lot of times what we do is we put that on our to-do list, and the end of the year, it hasn't even been touched. And the reason is it's not an action. We're putting things on our to-do list that are projects, not actions. This isn't, I'm going to the dry cleaner, check, right? This is, I'm going to learn how to do something. I'm going to set up my channel. I'm going to weekly do this. I'm going to get a VA to do my editing. I'm going to, like, these are multiple steps to get this done. And even now that it's more automated for me because I've been doing it for so long, I still have weekly action items to get to the result of, I'm going to publish 2 videos a week. I'm going to pick, part of my action item for the week. I'm going to pick my locations where I'm shooting. I'm going to make sure I understand some of the stats on the area. I'm going to, visit this particular new construction home. All of those are action items that get me to the outcome of creating a video, which get me to the goal of closing 900K in GCI, right? So a lot of us just go from step 1 to step 12. You've got to map out the actions.
Girl, you pump me up. Ugh. To the wrap-up questions. Wrap-up
I love
question
it.
number 1. Apple listeners, this short pause is to ask you for a review. Here's how to do it. Back out of the specific episode, go to the page where you see all the episodes, scroll down, keep scrolling. Perfect. Now tap those 5 stars. Thank you so much. Back to the show. Number 1, what is your favorite app or tool?
Ooh. Okay, so this is silly, but my favorite app is Spotify, and my favorite tool are my headphones. I have severe ADHD. Like, it's bad. And nobody seems to get this, but I saw a TikTok the other day. I was like, oh my God, they get me. And the only way I can get things done is if my headphones are in with loud music and I can just crank through some stuff, right? So those would be my favorites. So let's get to more realistic. What's my favorite apps, right? So I have a few of my faves and they're always on the front here, but it's going to be social media, which would be Instagram and Facebook, followed by Canva, followed by ManyChat. So my favorite apps are the apps that make me money, right? So I'm on social media enough and my husband laughs and he's like, "You're watching more reels." I'm like, I am, but I'm actually studying them. Like I'm saving audios. I'm looking at how they put it together. I'm reading what they wrote so I can kind of mimic and match because I can see that, they're getting the following, they're getting the engagement. I want to match that. Do that. Go find people that you already follow and start mimicking what they do. You're not stealing anything. This is just, it's a system that you have to follow. So the reason why I love social media is because it gets me out there and it doesn't cost anything to do it. The reason I love Canva, it makes it really easy to create guides or even really creative looking posts that didn't take you a whole lot of time to do it. So it cuts my time by a fraction. I do pay for that one. It's like $14 a month to get the pro version, but I really love the Brittany text that you could put on there. It's like a particular font. I don't know. That's literally the only reason why I got it. I'm weird. I know there's certain little things that I'm like, yeah, I'll splurge. And then ManyChat. So are you guys familiar with ManyChat by chance? You two probably are. So for those that maybe are not familiar with it, you might have seen it probably. I'm sure you have on Instagram at this point. But while you're going through and you see someone go, comment the word record, and I'll send you, my 10-step video process. And you comment record, and all of a sudden there's something in your inbox. You're like, this is so cool. It's an automation and it's called ManyChat. If you are looking to make money utilizing social media, this doesn't just work for coaches, by the way. I use it as a coach. But if you focus your Instagram on, finding buyers and sellers, you can do the same thing. Like type, let's say, market report, and I'll send you your free market report. And what you do is the automation for ManyChat sees the keyword and automatically sends them a link to your IDX page, and they can put in their address and their phone number and their name, and you automatically send them a quick CMA. And your system can send them the CMA. I don't care what firm you're with, unless you're a teeny boutique firm. Pretty much every system I know can do a quick automated Zestimate of sorts, but it gives you the opportunity to follow up with them. So it's all about capturing their information, basically. Capture the phone number, capture the name, capture the email, and then you can put them on drip campaigns and follow back up.
I love ManyChat. Yeah, and Shelby and I have covered ManyChat before, so you can check out that episode. It was the one with just me and Shelby on technology and tips. With ManyChat specifically, before I go to the next wrap up question, ManyChat is very similar to Zapier, where it's like those if then sequence, and you can just go all the way down. Like I've only done it with that first level, comment XYZ word, and it'll send you, the slide into your DMs, which quick lesson learned on that. I had comment AI for my AI presentation that I did for like Tucson Council of Realtors. And now any word with the word AI in it, like brain, will send them the link. So be mindful of that. I had to turn that one off.
Smart.
Yeah.
That
I'm like,
is
why is
smart.
everyone getting these AI stuff? So
You
I
start
have to
seeing the auto replies. You're like, why am I replying to that? I don't understand what's
yeah,
happening.
I know. It was like nothing to do with it. And like all of a sudden I'm like, check your DMs, and they're like, why? So be mindful of that. I forget where I was going with this. Oh, with ManyChat, do you use anything more than just the first level? Do you use their CRM? Do you use more of the if then sequences?
So I use some of the if then sequences. One of the ones that I've started to get into is the suggested conversations. Basically, that's what I always call it. I know it's not actually called that, but it's if someone goes to automatically DM you when they open it up, it gives two options. So one is, do you offer one-on-one coaching? And what is the best newest opportunity in working with you, kind of a thing. And I do have automation set up with that. What I have been doing, however, and this is just the way I was trained on doing it, was getting people to like a guide or something else where it's collecting their info and then getting them into a sequence. So I do my email sequences, which I'm working on this week. I do my email sequences in Flowdesk. So I've started to build up a following or, my emails in Flowdesk. And then from there, I'm sending out automations. If you're confused as to what you should do for your emails or how you should send them out or anything like that, Flowdesk has really, I would say, beautifully and simply laid out not only automations, but their email sequences, like the way they look. It makes it kind of idiot proof. I don't really know what I'm doing and I'm going through, this is cool. And it's like telling me to go to the next page. I'm like, oh, okay. So it makes it easier and it takes a lot of the edge off of, well, how do I set this up? So I have a few that are pre-set up. So let's say you want one of my guides. You go in, you put in your contact information, and it pulls you into, just like a Zapier, it pulls you into an automated for email, basically just automation. Once it hits that last trigger where it's okay, it just sent the last automated email, then it brings you into my basically weekly or daily drip emails. And I always go by this and I highly recommend it. Don't sell. That's even when you're working with clients. I'm speaking from like a coaching standpoint, but don't just sell. Gary Vee, read the book, get the audiobook, get the cliff notes. But the very simple concept is literally on the title, and it's called jab, 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 right hook. And the idea of is it give information, give value, now ask for something in return. By giving more value, a lot of people start getting really weird about that, especially in the coaching space, I feel, where they're like, no, it's knowledge. I have to hold on to it. I'm like, no, the more knowledge you give, the more you'll receive back. Because at the end of the day, what people pay for, and this is your clients too, they pay for the system. They pay for the process. They pay for the step-by-step, either do it for me, do it with me. That's what people want. And I've done it. I've spent thousands on coaching sessions or programs. I'm still in one right now about how to do Instagram better or do this better. People pay for the process. They can find all the information they need online. Anybody can, but people pay for the process. So when you are selling to a buyer or seller, keep that in mind. Give them a bunch of information. They're not going to be able to go replicate it on their own. We know that. So just give them as much as you possibly can. Jab, 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 right hook, tell them a call to action. So that would be that's my long-winded answer to that.
Thank you for answering. What events are you going to this year? 2024. Where can people find you?
It's funny. I am just now getting some things lined up. So I spoke at shareholders last year. Last year, I actually told myself I was going to no events because I was going to focus on my baby. And I still ended up at 2 because I spoke at both of them. So I flew out, flew back. So this year I'm actually getting my calendar set up, but there's probably either going to be shareholders or maybe one of the other EXP events that I'm getting lined up for. There's one locally coming up here in January, but they don't even have the final dates out yet. So if you guys want to look me up or find me, you can always go to KailaLindsey.com, or you can check out the Viral Agent Formula at viralagentformula.com/watch. And those are going to be like my top 2 places to find me and ask questions. Or you can find me on Instagram, Kaila Lindsey Realtor, which my name is spelled funky, by the way. So it's Kaila. So yeah, if you put a Y, you're not going to find me. So Kaila Lindsey Realtor on Instagram and most social media.
So you've mentioned coaching several times between Veronica and, your Instagram. So what coaching programs have you done or are you in?
Oh God, you got a few hours? So I've
We have
done
like
a ton of
45 seconds.
I've done so many. I've done so many. I always, even from like when the start of my career, I always found it important to get yourself involved with a coach. Getting coached, whether it be in group coaching or a course or a one-on-one coach, they're going to take that knowledge that took them years to get to and give it to you. It shortens your period of the learning curve by years. My first year in the business, the first course I took was called Bold with Keller Williams. I'm sure plenty of you have taken it. I've got like a bunch of little trophies up there from like completing of it. And I did it more than once because what I realized was I needed to take a step further than what the average person was doing if I wanted to be above average. And it cost $800. At the time, that was a ton of money for me because I just started. I had no money. I did it anyway. That is the reason I closed 29 transactions that year, my first year. That's the reason why I got involved with other coaching. That's the reason I found other coaches in my field in various parts of the country. It's why I got involved in Tony Robbins. I just got back from Date with Destiny, which is like $1 bajillion to go. But it was worth it. Like every single thing that I've done, I've been able to take a piece, apply it to my business, apply it to my life, and take that next step or leap forward. And you've got to pay to be in the right rooms. I'm a hands down believer in that. I've paid as much as $25,000 to be in the rooms with people. It is worth it.
I'm so excited to one, do the second episode with you and to continue following your success. You are a bad. This has been a great episode, and thank you so much for coming on. For the listeners that haven't yet gone on theagentgoldmine.com, you can find the free resources there for you. Download it, reach out to Kaila, Kaila Lindsey, Sey, and show her some love. So that is it for today. Thank you for listening. Be a bro and share this show. Kaila. Okay, dude, jumping right in. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I'm trying.
Marking clip.
Yep, marking clip.
Yep.
Business. Yep, 100%. I always say, of course, not all of them are outside right now. I apologize.
Kaila,
And Lindsey
this
is
oh.
My bad.
Ali,
S-E-Y. Yes, I knew
Yeah.
you were going to say S-E-Y.
This
Take
is
it,
not one of
Shelby.
our wrap-up questions, but I'm skipping one of them in lieu of this one.
Thanks so much for listening, dude. If you want the golden nugget that this guest provided, see the show notes or just go straight to theagentgoldmine.com. That's where we keep all our resources for you. Till next time.